All right, so hello and welcome to the world building panel. My name is Shannon, Wright. I am an actor, storyteller, role player for in people's entire lives, longer than some of you have been on the planet. Um, I run games professionally right now for NDIS and help out youth on the spectrum with their social skills, etc., etc. But storytelling is my art. And so that puts me in a nice place to be able to host a panel like this. On my right, your left, is Brandon. Brandon is from the Raven Emporium. Brandon has written many a few games. And yes, what else do we say about you?
We make dice and pretty objects if you're a role
Raven's
player.
Emporium is in the food on the big room over there where they're doing all the workshops. Go buy real cool stuff from them. They're making me some awesome Canadian potions. So
We are.
it's gonna be cool for my geek room. Richard, of course, is from Who's on First Watch. They're doing a podcast using the Daggerheart system. What else can you tell us about that?
I think we're starting to hang our hat on the fact that while we're claiming to be the first Daggerheart podcast in Australia, now whether that's true or not,
Oh no!
I think there's one.
Do we have to fight it out?
Well, I'm happy to do that. But I think for the most part, we've taken the further steps in relation to being the Australian Daggerheart podcast. But me, historically, veteran gamer, 35 years of playing D&D, etc., and all the spectrum in between board games and role-playing games across the board. So, that's kind of me.
Built a few worlds in your time.
I have.
So have I. So have you.
Indeed.
Some successful, some not so successful.
Yeah.
Excellent. We were supposed to have Mark Baker with us, but he didn't make it. So what can you do? We assume you guys are here because you're into narratives, writing. We assume you're wanting to be author-y type of people. So in that vein, we tried to put this together in a way that helps you guys out more than it helps us out.
But there's also things you might want to add as
yeah.
well that we can.
And we're happy to hear it and give you our ideas on what you guys are doing. So the first question that we get to in this is, where do you start in your world building? Where is it? What do you do? Do we start with world geography, certain kingdom, a culture, religion, a specific city, town, one faction, one character, or in a relationship between any two of these types of things? What sparks you, Brandon, into your world building? What is the first kind of step for you that gets you going?
Yeah. I think I'm changing my answer a bit from yesterday because I had a discussion with Jessie last night and she was like, I don't think you do that. And I was like,
excellent.
Okay, maybe you're right.
You're wrong.
You're wrong. So previously my answer would have been I start small in a microcosm, somewhere like a town or some kind of small ecosystem in which the players have a lot of threads to pull on. But she was like, yeah, but you wrote a map making game. You don't start world building small. You start on the biggest scale. And I'm like, okay, you're probably right. So I actually think I probably tend to start creating a world map first and trying to implement the things in the world that I think are interesting, probably from geography first, and then like descending down the tiers of like zoom level, I suppose you could call it. So, you create your continent, and then I'll probably start zooming down into, okay, what cultures live in this continent and what kingdoms are in this continent and what cities and then what towns and then what individual people that are influential, all the way down to where am I going to put my players? Where am I going to put my characters, my protagonists?
And the level of detail, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious, right? So you start at that high level, and then as you distill down,
yes, you get more detail.
And the more relevant elements that sit around that
Yeah.
small microcosm, that's where the real focus. And then as you expand, like you were saying yesterday, is that they go interacting with those different elements, and you know that needs more detail now.
Yeah.
You can pull from the players and also create more as you require it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Is geology and geography for you a thing? Do you study into like, well, what kind of rock formations would this look like, or how would living in an area full of sulfur affect the people that are in that area? Like, are there real world considerations that you look at?
I think you can use real world considerations, or you can use imagined considerations, but it's the fact that the considerations are present that makes the world believable. So it could be that like they're near this element in the town that affects it in XYZ way that you find interesting from a narrative perspective, and you make it make sense in the world. But it's the fact that it's present that makes that interesting. It doesn't have to be related specifically to real world geology or geography. But I think it helps because you're trying to sell something to your audience, your players, right? You're trying to
your level of verisimilitude
yes
is determined.
yeah
Within your realm. You know, the things that you say are real in your worlds are real, and then you just got to follow the rules of those things.
Yeah.
Of course, right? If magic is real, then magic is real, and what follows along from that. I think that goes along with the thing we said yesterday: is keep asking why until you can't, there is no more whys to get.
yeah
Right? Like just keep asking why all the way down. Why does this? Why does that? Why does this? Yes. Where do you start with your world building?
I haven't changed. I haven't spoken to anyone, so that's
a man of your word.
Probably why I haven't changed. But, I think we were saying yesterday, there's multiple inspiration points that I think I've used many. One example I use is potentially an entire world based off a concept or an inspiration from a magical item might be the catalyst for everything that springs from that.
Yeah.
More recently, in the current world for the podcast, my co-creator and I essentially we were, I'm going to say pretty much the same thing I said yesterday. Came up with this concept of we've been chasing that old feeling and excitement of immersion that we used to have, that we kind of lost along the way just from life and drudgery and all that kind of stuff. My life's not drudgery. Anyway, who am I trying to convince? Anyway, long story short is we ended up looking for a world to operate in, and we couldn't find something that fit exactly what we wanted. So we'll design our own. So then what we did is we got together and leveraged all our favorite pop culture elements over the last 30 years. But we put it into a place that made it our own, so we could tell the stories in that format. So I think world building, if you boil it all down and take away all the frameworks and techniques, I think it's just what inspires you, whatever is the inspiration or the catalyst for creative narrative thought. So it could be anything.
Did you find that world gave you that spark?
100%.
Like you got it back? Yeah.
So we've been getting this world up off the ground for about 4 years now. We've had a couple of failed attempts at getting the podcast going.
Yeah.
But now we're up and running, and we've found that magic again. Like, when you get comments from your players saying that was the most immersive game I've ever played.
Yeah.
I was like, right there, man.
Yeah.
I was there. And like, yes. And it's born from that inspiration, wherever it comes from.
Yeah, of course, world building and tabletop role-playing games is a great training ground forum for any writing because you're in a collaborative group. For me, in my world building, generally I start with characters. So the players in my group come up with a character idea and they want to be X, Y, or Z. And then I just ask why outwards from all of that. And that kind of builds the world for me, builds through factions, builds through whatever. But once in a while, a geographical type of thing,
top-down approach,
sparks my brain. And as we were talking about yesterday, I created a city based on a slate mine that was nearby, and I don't know if you know this, but if you look into slate, like slate roofs, there's lots of different colors. So there's like, we think of a gray slate roof, but there's greens, there's purples, there's ones with specks and gold bits in them. There's all sorts of really cool slates. So in this Victorian age city that I was creating for this D&D vampire kind of chronicle that was going on, each of the districts had different slate colored roofs. So you knew where you were based on, if you were gray roofs, you were in the drudgery, and if you're of the mansions, you might have, the whole giant area would have purple slate roofs with gold specks on them. So just a simple geology thing gave this town so much character right off the
industry.
And industry, right? And then I had a river that was called the Amethyst because the color of the river was shaped by the same things that colored the stones. So they've got this purple river that went through the city. Right?
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it was it's very beautiful and immersive, and we loved all of that stuff. Speaking of which, how do we make locations memorable? And where do you get your inspiration from for that? So obviously, this location for me was pretty memorable for the group. It was pretty easy to get on board with. What do you do? What tools do you use? What methods do you use to make locations memorable?
I think to make something memorable, you need to have I try and distill it down to one thing, and I'll either make the thing like an inversion of an assumption, or I'll make the thing something that is so just like grandiose or like question inducing. So like if you think of Minas Tirith, the actual structure of the city is the thing that's so memorable about it. You can't, like, if I say Minas Tirith and you know what I'm talking about, you instantly picture that city because of how unique the architecture and the structure of that city is. And that's just like the one thing. The streets could look exactly the same as London or something like that, but the structure of the city is its memorable core. And so I think you can take one element of a location and do something with it, make it huge and like grandiose, or invert the assumption on it. Something like that, I think, really grounds you and pulls you into the uniqueness of the location.
I think inverting the assumption is such a great tool, period, end of story. For everything that you ever do. Look at the opposites. You know, and as opposite as you can get. And try to play around even in the spectrum of opposite. But what do you do to find memorable?
A couple of things. Emotional attachment for the players.
100%.
If they have feelings of feeling in a homestead or feeling fear, or that absolutely hooks for memorable places. I also lean a lot on taste, smells, sounds. I use music where possible. One particular town in our world has a festival of one of their gods, and it's very much has a music element to it.
Bit of bardcore.
Well, which was, which really was very memorable for that particular place. So using those real tangible elements as well is what makes it memorable for us.
So in role-playing games, combat is a major thing, and in a lot of stories, combat is a thing that happens. Whenever I think in role-playing games, I think combat is the most boring thing that you can do.
Agreed.
So making the location memorable for the combat is such a key thing. One of my favorites was inside a slaughterhouse.
Nice.
With combat inside a slaughterhouse. So that was pretty cool.
Something you said before about reversing the assumption, or whatever the phrase was, is that one of the things that I think that sometimes it doesn't gets missed, but is embedded in certainly in the fantasy genre, is archetypes about races and things like that.
Yes.
But one of the things that my co-creator did really well is that we have a nation of hobgoblins.
Yeah.
And he was playing a hobgoblin as a character, and he portrayed their culture as aliens.
Right.
So really, so he kind of modeled off Worf from Star Trek.
Sure.
But he never. So he presented that culture to everyone else who had these normal archetypes about races and in our normal society, and it made this really cool tension in the party and in the world that he was like, well, why are you telling me not to be who I am as part of my culture? Why are you telling me to act this way when it's actually culturally appropriate for who I am? So bringing in an alien concept to cultures really sparks that interest, and certainly from a world building perspective.
It reminds me of Dune. So one of the topics we got into yesterday, of course, was of the bad guy, the big bad, and how we're in an era of understandable motivation for evil, right? Magneto was right. We all understand that the villains that we see nowadays, we see that Thanos had certain ideals of why he wanted to kill half of the life forms in the universe. And back to Dune, I'm watching the Harkonnen. Man, those guys are just terrible evil. You're just terrible evil. There's no redeeming quality. I can't go, I'm on board with the way your culture works.
No.
You're just terribly, irredeemably bad, evil
Yeah.
things, creatures.
Why do you think that works still as a modern narrative if we're so...
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
I think there's because
It's because they're iconic.
Yeah,
and Dune
yes.
does a beautiful thing where it kind of juxtaposes a lot of complexity with some real simple concepts.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we're getting to this ridiculous political landscape, but also these guys are hobgoblins, right? Like, they just hate things and hurt
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They're just
You
alien.
also think that the Dune is like they're showing shades of evil because no one's really good.
No, that's true.
Exactly.
Yeah, even Paul
Like,
Atreides.
they're really
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't he? Yeah.
Arguably worse.
Yeah, he probably ends up killing more people than all the Harkonnens.
Yeah, true.
I mean, people.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. This just took a turn.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's the next one?
No, wait, I want to know what you meant. I want to know specifically.
We may or may not be posting this later.
Yeah, the sandworms. Yeah.
What,
Yeah.
what was it?
Camera's right there.
Hello,
Yeah, yeah.
camera. Hello, camera. I'm just saying, from certain perspectives, you don't really think about
Dig up,
things.
stupid.
There's a no.
I'm joking.
Listen. The truth of the matter is this: if a tsunami comes and kills 300,000 people, that's a statistic. But if 4 people get killed in a car accident out the front here, that's a tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no, that's a good point.
it's not necessarily like when I say people,
No.
I'm making fun of the idea that you can genocide swaths of creatures and it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily. It's not good. Don't do genocide.
That's the takeaway.
That's
Yeah.
the takeaway from this. Genocide's bad. Okay, cool. Moving along. Plot. So this is Dune is great on plot, which is I call plot what happens if the characters do nothing in the world. This is what the plot is, and then the story is what the characters are doing. And as we go through the story, we should start off with a lot of plot idea, and then we should be swapping to the end when the plot doesn't matter so much. It's the story that matters in the end, right? That said, tell me about building these relationships between kingdoms, countries, factions. What methods do you like to use to do this? And how do you weave these relationships into the plot?
Yeah, okay. I think I take a approach that's talked about in Blades in the Dark, which is a role-playing game. And they use a system called the faction clock. But essentially, it's you have a faction or a series of factions, and you establish them with a goal or a motive that they're trying to achieve, and what things they're going to be needing to do to get there, what tasks or steps along the way they're going to need to take to achieve this final goal. And then you think about what other faction might exist that would be in opposition to that end. So this faction wants to burn down all the churches. Well, there's the church is probably a faction that doesn't want to get burnt down. So now you have a relationship between 2 factions, right? I mean, they could be a church of fire. Maybe they love
Fire
burning their church. But you see what I'm saying, right? So I like to come up with maybe like a handful of factions, and then using the goals that they're trying to achieve, I'll create like a network, like a map where I'm trying to see, okay, who's going to be in opposition to what this faction is trying to achieve.
Yep.
And then I'll give every faction a secondary goal that relates to how they're going to be getting in somebody else's way.
Yep.
World of Darkness, 5th edition, they have a relationship map that follows
similar
along
concept.
that concept.
Yeah,
A lot of different games. Role-playing games are our greatest resource for writing.
so good.
They're like hilariously the best. It's amazing. What do you do?
Similar thing as you were saying is that have 3. I have made the mistake of having too many factions.
Yeah,
Having too much exposition in my head to be able to really narrow down into the core narrative of what's going on. So I've learned from that. And so typically 3 core factions are at odds.
3 big players. Sort of
Yeah. Even if there's some in the periphery.
Yeah.
But as well as that, which we'll talk about yesterday, is I've created a calendar, and irrespective of what the players are doing, I have events that are plotted on the on the calendar. So as they progress through following whatever lead or direction they end up going in, maybe it does intersect with one of these events, maybe it doesn't. But I know at that certain point in time, this particular event related to a faction is going to happen. And then the question is well, where are the players or the lead characters or whomever in this conversation is, where are they in relation to that when it happens? They're either, that's the path that they followed and they're kind of involved in that so that they get directly impacted, or they're halfway across the country, but the event is so significant that they might hear about it or something like that. So that's kind of how I build that relationship between the world and the actual main characters and drama.
One of the other things you spoke about yesterday was the idea that even from the beginning, if your writing is myopic from the main character's point of view, you don't necessarily have interaction with any other factions from the beginning. And I said my good buddy Jim is very into all the alien stuff that's been coming out, all the videos and all of these things. And he's like, yeah, but man, look, holy crap, there's all these things we can't explain, and we see them, and we really know we can't explain them. I'm like, yeah, that's really cool, except it doesn't affect my life at all.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect those factions.
Yeah.
Are not real to my life.
Still have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Don't remind me.
I used the analogy yesterday about, in a medieval realism terms, is that a surfer or a farmer has no idea what's going on, apart from massive events that they might hear in the marketplace or something like that. But until they get out or become the main protagonist or whomever in the story, then they're not really going to have that interaction with the major factions. So I guess it's two sides of the same coin, in that having a good understanding of what is happening politically within a story provides depth to the superficial stuff where it typically starts, until they get ensconced in whatever they end up doing.
Yeah.
And I think that plays back into, we were talking about editing, and how as an editor of yourself, if you can do it, you have to be absolutely brutal. Right? Try writing for television. Okay? You cannot have extraneous words. There is no extraneous detail. You have what's relevant and always what's relevant. Yeah.
Players get so confused.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is actually happening here?
And I've had that experience.
And in television and films and stuff, we've gone from the act structure to now we have multiple act structures following different characters as we go, and we're just such sophisticated watchers now that we don't need to watch your protagonist get up, have breakfast, get into their car, drive to work, and
there's also
get a cup of coffee. We know all those things are going to happen. Like, we show them walk in with a coffee to have the thing done. Right? Everybody knows what's happened before that.
The flip side with novels is that you do have an opportunity to give exposition in the book. Where, there's lore that might inform.
Sure. But show me, don't tell me.
Well, yeah, I agree. And that's absolutely true of role-playing games.
Yeah.
But you have a little bit more
Leeway, yeah, for sure.
Providing that background understanding that the reader has, but the actual characters don't, in order to give them depth and meaning.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the great acting notes is discover your words. So none of us have a pre-planned script in our head as we go through our days, and your characters should also not have a pre-planned script in their head. Sorry about your luck. As an actor, all of your words need to feel like they are discovered at the time, yes.
That's cool. There was a framework that I stumbled across for conceptualizing your world building that kind of touches on this, where if you think about your world building and break it down into 3 different categories, it helps you kind of prioritize what you should spend your most effort on in terms of what you're fleshing out. And so the first category was the world building that your audience or your players need to know. And then there was the world building that the characters need to know in order to feel like they are believable actors in this world. And the third and least most important world building was the world building that you need to know as an author, as a dungeon master. And so breaking it down into those categories, yeah, unfortunately
That's
so,
my
right?
favorite part.
That's the favorite bit. But, the question then becomes, is it wasted effort if you're sitting there for like 10 hours planning out your session, working out this neighboring continent that has a minor influence on the story? It might be, yeah. Even if it's fun.
Yeah.
You might just strip and step first, like, oh, there's a mine colony over there. All right, cool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So breaking it down to those categories allows you to say, okay, so the first thing I need to do is make sure that the stuff that I'm giving my players for them to create interesting characters is this amount of world building. Has relevance. And then the characters need to know X to be believable in the world. And then last but not least, I need to know more about what's going on, but not so much more that I'm wasting time. Yeah.
Efficiency is important.
Efficiency is important, yeah. Unless you're doing it for leisure. If you're world building for leisure, well build to your heart's content.
Yeah, discovery and reveal, I think, are really, really important bits in any story.
Yeah.
Just as an incidental side, playing a dumb character, to write a dumb character convincingly, everything is a discovery. And that's how you do it. Everything is a discovery to that character. Like, whoa, I didn't know.
It's like me every day.
You go through scenes where you can think, oh yeah, you might actually know that, how to navigate through that, even though you're kind of like a comedic character. Like, you can survive that if you think about it.
Absolutely, the most fun characters you ever get to play in a role-playing game are comedic failures. Like, failure is the most important aspect of role-playing. In my estimation, it's the
you get the best moment.
The best moment.
Storytelling, not just role playing.
Storytelling, period. Yeah. Failures. Of course, every great hero has a tragic backstory. You don't have a great hero without a tragic backstory. It just doesn't work that way.
But what's a triumph without a few failures beforehand?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or a lot of failures.
A lot of failures. Exactly.
They say Dyson, the guy that made the Dyson vacuums, 5,000 vacuums before one was good.
Yeah.
That's a lot of failure. 5,000. Or in the acting world, in Vancouver anyway, if you have 100 auditions for the year and you get 5 of them, you're a working actor. That's a 95% rejection rate. Yeah? You're supposed to feel good about that. Like, I got 5 of them. Woo! It's terrible. It's terrifying. Any good questions, points on that? We're good so far? All right. How do you work on seasons or series of the plot? How do you do episode breakdowns? We were talking, you and your group, you do a 10 to 12 session storytell, and then you switch genres, GMs, systems, etc. So you go through a lot of world building very quickly. Like 4 a year-ish.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think one of the main things I try and conceptualize, and maybe this is why it's on my brain to be efficient with my world building. Maybe that's the reason why, because I'm having to do a lot in a year. But I think it's important to know what kind of narrative you're trying to tell. So if I'm going into a role-playing game that's about like a gritty gang in a like Victorian London city, I will have a look at other media that exists in that genre, and I'll try and break down what kinds of like arcs the players are going to go through, what kind of arcs the narratives are going to go through, and I'll use that as the basis for what things I need to world build. So in that gritty Victorian thing, I know that the characters are going to have to like have that downfall where they've got some rival gang that's, beating them down, and eventually they're going to come out on top with some kind of triumph. I'll use that as a framework to be like, okay, well, I need to create a faction map of all of the elements, all of the factions that are acting in this city. That needs to be present. And I need to work out what kind of opposition is going to exist in the lore, because these people are gang members. And I need to work out what kind of like crime network pre-exists so that the players can leverage that. But I'll make sure that I don't go too extraneous. Like I don't need to know anything outside of the city. So I'm only just world building a city because this is an urban story. And so analyzing pre-existing media and relating that to the type of narrative you're trying to tell as a way to sort of get your priority list on what needs to be world built.
Steal from the best.
Steal from the best. There's no harm in following arcs or structures that pre-exist. They're there for a reason. And they
obviously, you're doing podcasts, so a lot of planning out.
Yes, slightly different format.
Yeah,
because you're doing the
short
10 to 12
form
episodes, short form. with the
And you're thinking about seasons worth
correct, but
or series.
yeah. And there's a difference between shifting from what was typically Dungeons and Dragons, which is years and years and years. The Dagger Heart system is a bit more consumable and attainable because you can max out at level 10. So it depends on how far or how long you want to take in order to achieve those levels, and which is essentially takes you to the climax and the end of the campaign arc. But we are currently doing a 3-act run, which is fairly typical. The length of the acts or the length of the episodes is to be determined because we're still exploring what makes sense for how long you take to level. But at the same time, if it's still making narrative sense, because you watch TV series or read a book series, and you get to the 7th book and you're like, you should wrap this up like 2 books ago. And then it's kind of disappointing in that. So I think that the Dagger Heart framework kind of lends itself to that, but also we're quite conscious of ensuring that it's still, the narrative is still cool, it's still exciting, it's still making sense, and we're progressing in order to maintain that. But from a world building perspective, there's another side to what we're doing, is that we've essentially built a world that has quite a bit of lore in it. We've run a few games in it, so there is some history. And the idea is that that once I finish my run and another DM comes in to pick it up, we will still run it in that same world, so that having that broader political positions and what the players do in that world, or even in similarly with a book, they impact the world and actually change it, so that at the end of that one and someone picks it up, it could be in a completely different place, but they've essentially had an impact on the world itself.
So even new protagonists could come in and see the implications
100%.
of everything.
And you can either go and you can time hop as well. It could be 50 years in the future or 50 years in the past, or a different age. So we've set up ages, and it's similarly with books. I assume as an author, they often go back and do Dragonlance. They go back and do the before times of the Cataclysm and all that kind of stuff. So there's all that opportunity, but our hope is, and our idea is to have it within the one world.
How far ahead do you plan in your arcs? Do you know loosely what's going on? And
I've got bullet points for Act 2 and 3.
Okay.
And the way that I've built the story, whereas historically I've been quite linear, which is reading a book cover to cover, which we've spoken about before. I'm more approaching it from a node perspective. So there are 3 or 4 different nodes, and I'm just letting the guys around the table steer and find their interest in where they want to go. And depending on which direction they go, I'll have a story kind of loosely mapped, but there'll be 3 or 4 exits from each entry point. To those localized nodes.
So you probably don't want to do too much work on Act 2 or 3 yet, because you don't know.
I don't know where they're going to go.
But
I do have a handful of, which is probably a good segue, but I do have 3 core villains and a potential 2 major villains that are influencing all of those things. Now, which one they end up encountering, if any, who knows? But I have that general concept of those things.
Cool.
The question is, of course, how do we make a memorable and novel big bad or big bad event at the end of what is the Cataclysm? Who is the big bad guy? How do we make that exciting, new, and important?
Emotion, hatred.
Emotion and hatred.
It's got to be real, and they've got to have a vested interest in how much they hate that particular, or the reader hates, or even understands as well. Understands, but the choices that they made because of their circumstances, you have to hate the choices that they made and who they are and who they become. Because without that, why would you be motivated to go against them? Whether they're doing horrific things like genocide, or whatever it is to a race or to a community, unless you have a vested interest, you just go, well, I'm just going to go live over here.
So also we're, I think, in an era right now where we've we tried to have every character within the story be someone we can identify with.
Yes.
And then even the big bad, and this
Yeah.
is the Magneto was right idea. But how do you go about making your big bad somebody we can love, hate?
Just one last thing on that.
Yeah,
though.
go.
And when we're talking about pure evil versus,
Yeah,
the understandable.
understandable evil.
Yeah. The difference with where there's opportunity within the fantasy genre is if it's a demon or a magical construct, then you have that opportunity, and there's a general archetypal understanding that this entity is pure evil.
Yeah.
So you have a bit of a get out of jail free if that's essentially the kind of entity that is the big bad narrative.
I think some guilt and shame in the big bad. The ones I'm thinking of lately are Doctor Strange in What If, when he like sacrifices his reality to try to save his wife.
True. There has to
or
be some human element,
some
emotion.
human element, or Shadow and Bone. We've been watching Shadow and Bone.
Oh yeah.
And the general, the Shadow Weaver guy.
Yeah.
He caused the rift in the first place hundreds of years ago. Nobody knows that it's been him this whole time, etc. So those types of things where shame and guilt drive, I think that as readers we can all identify with shame and guilt, and how for some people that's like physical torture to them.
Yeah.
True. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, all of that is like pretty on the
awesome.
pretty on the head of what I think makes a compelling villain. I always find it particularly interesting if like the villain is so understandable, but their actions aren't, that you almost like. I sometimes enjoy it when I find it hard to hate them, but I know they need to be stopped.
Yeah.
I think that's also a compelling angle you can take. Like I think Arcane, the TV series, does this really, really well.
Yes.
Because like every single antagonist in that show is, you can so understand where they're coming from.
That's really true.
Like
who's actually an antagonist, right? Like you
yeah,
get to that
like
point where
Mbessa
you're
or
what's Victor doing?
That's right. Or Jinx in the first season.
Jinx, for sure.
But she's so understandable. Like she's just from a perspective of trauma, all of her actions have been so consequential in a negative way, and she needs to be stopped. But she's not a bad person.
Really good,
kind of.
Really good point. But one of the things that I've struggled with that, certainly from not necessarily from a novel perspective, because you have more opportunity to explore those idiosyncrasies and those relationships. But from a game perspective, unless I've found that unless there is
a motivator,
that's the bad guy.
Yeah.
It can become tricky.
Yeah.
To focus and direct.
That's true.
The story.
Yeah, because your players might not bite onto that because they don't see them
and
as
I've been guilty of that. Is that I know 100% who's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because they're
slightly grey area.
or they are working with them, or that kind of thing that I don't, because I haven't gone. You just burn the orphanage. You know? They're like,
really bad.
I've had players around the table say, we kind of don't really know. We know there's stuff going on, but what are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, I've had one faction say, here, we need you to go and do this for us, this questy kind of thing.
Because it's not personal. They're not motivated.
Yeah, that's right. But also, if they're not if there's no clarity on this is the path or this is the thing we need to do, then to foil the evil plot, then it can be a little bit of a struggle. Even if they're on the wrong track, they still need to know they're on a track.
Yeah, true.
And then later on you go, well, guess what? You've been working for the bad guys the whole time.
Yeah.
So a bit of clarity from a game's perspective, I think, is beneficial.
Yeah.
From a story narrative book reading, I think there's a lot more scope to explore those.
Yeah.
That's just personally.
No, I think I agree. I think I've run into the exact same problems where I've been running campaigns and the players are like, well, I don't know who I should be trying to stop though. Like, bad stuff's happening, but who's responsible? And
I get why this guy's done this thing.
Yeah.
And, I kind of don't want to hang him out to dry for it.
Yeah. Sometimes I think it helps if you've got the bad guy doing these atrocious things, making them understandable, giving that gray area, the ambiguity, but make the bad things that the bad person is doing directly affect the characters. So like there's an NPC that they absolutely love, and the bad guy who
They always are going to die.
they're gonna die.
I did that in episode 1 of our podcast.
Episode 1.
Yeah, and I had a character in tears. First episode.
Oh my
You
god.
gotta check it out.
Smoking gun.
You got to check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
If you ever get stuck, I love smoking gun moments. It's like, all right, you're getting stuck. All right, something happens to you now. What do you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
And like, just make them. Oh, I really hate this one.
Put them in a situation. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's good.
100%. On this note, I ran a game of the World of Darkness. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this role-playing system, but it's essentially our world, but there are vampires and werewolves and mages and wraiths and fairies and demons and all of this stuff hidden in the background. And so in the world of vampire, everyone is a cog. Every single player, every single NPC is a cog in a bigger machine. And whatever they do, that it gets to the point where the group of players, they feel they can only count on themselves, and everyone else is a pro antagonist. They're never sure whether this guy, like our things might align for a while, and then we find out, oh, you're actually working for this guy we hate.
Is there an old RPG game called Paranoia?
There certainly
Yeah.
there certainly is.
Yeah.
I went into the library and I asked the librarian, I said, are there any books on paranoia? She said, shh. That's hilarious. They're right behind you.
Well played, librarian.
One of my favorite dad jokes. Good. Where were we? We're talking about bad guys. That was a nice one. I like that. We had some good stuff.
Yeah.
Collaborative versus solo world building. What are the thoughts?
Yes.
Collaborative.
Oh.
I'm all aboard on the collaborative. I think
Yes.
that having more brains is better.
Yeah.
People are gonna come up with ideas that you didn't think of that
Yes.
don't necessarily make sense to you, but that might actually be the hottest choice. And of course,
Yeah.
whenever you're writing and storytelling of any sort, always pick the choice that has the most drama. Pick the hottest choice every time.
Mhm.
Every time. Even if it's a little more drama, just pick the hottest choice.
And some
Any other thoughts on that?
Yes, I agree. Collaborative world building, 100%. I think,
Just
especially
because a downfall for solo writers.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
it's hard.
potentially, yeah. I think with the Dagger Heart, I've had to pivot somewhat because it does open up more opportunity for collaborative storytelling, and it's a mind shift from what's happened in the past with other role-playing games where you essentially control
It's
other.
near, like early D&D is near antagonistic, right?
Yeah,
it's like the players versus the story, the DM,
Yeah, and that
the
gap's
dungeon
closed.
master, right?
That
And the
gap's
other
closed.
systems we call it the storyteller.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right. Yeah. And it's taken a mind shift of myself to let go of some
Yeah.
of that. And which is why I've shifted more to that bit more sandboxy, because I need to let go of that.
Yeah.
I know what's happening and where they're going, but freedom of choice
Yeah.
and creative.
Or the illusion of choice.
Well, yeah. Or the feedback and the creative elements that you can pick out from the people around the table to contribute to building the world. And it is a core component of building the intent with our podcast is this world that we can continually grow and move in. So I've even had players write a village for where they came from. Like, yeah, man, like you take that and create it.
Yeah.
And we'll put it in this canon.
Yeah.
Show us how it shaped who you are.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay, so from on this sort of thing, when we're talking this set 10 or 12 sessions,
Yeah.
how much collaborative storytelling can really happen if you've got these things like really laid out? Because you got to be on the ball, right?
Well, I mean, it's not something that I need to do this prep in isolation of, though.
Right.
So we can collaborate together in a session 0. We can look up together what is the arc of an urban crime narrative that we want to tell in a Victorian city together. And the players can be like, it'll be cool if there was a rival gang that's like this. And I'll be like, oh yeah, that's genius. Hell yeah. Take notes. So sometimes we do it like that. There are other times when there's particular systems or games that we're trying to run that do call for solo world building, because part of the narrative that is getting played out by the players, the fun is in uncovering mysteries that the players don't know. And so those sorts of narratives, I think, are harder to collaborate in the world building so that the players still have as much enjoyment. But it's certainly possible in a small scale. One thing I really like doing as a session 0 is running a game called Cartograph.
I don't know if any of you have heard of this.
Yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah. So Cartograph is a map-making role-playing game specifically designed for world building.
Excellent.
And you can play it in a group. And so you'll all sit down and start creating a world map together. You'll create towns and cities and mountain ranges and all of the lore and culture and histories around them. And so sometimes I like playing a session of this as a session 0 with all my players. And then all the players, when they're coming in to play the actual game of Dungeons & Dragons or whatever it is, have so much more of a vested interest.
Skin in the game.
They've got skin in the game. I'm going to be from this mountain village, a barbarian here, because I made that town in session 0.
Yeah, I love that.
So that's a really good way to get people to buy
Actually,
into
you know what? I think, some of the areas in this world that we've created, Manoroth is the name of it.
Good name.
There's some of the areas within there haven't got that clarity yet.
Yeah.
There's still, we've got some core elements around the place, and but the detail doesn't necessarily exist yet.
Yeah.
So grabbing something like that, and we'll talk later
Yeah.
about whether you can start with a semi-construct and then lay over the
And
cartograph
fill in
and
some more
fill in
details.
some more detail with the players around the table. That'll be so much fun.
Yeah.
very
Definitely
cool.
can.
Imagine if you did that, you made the original thing, and then you complete the campaign. You're like, okay, we've done all this stuff. All right, what does it look like now, or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, and that's 100% the concept of what we're doing. So when I finish these 3 arcs, the landscape, not physical landscape, hope, political landscape,
Really chaotic.
the magical landscape, or whatever it is, will have changed, and that will be the kicking off point for the next thing. Or
Okay, we've got only a couple minutes left. If anybody has a question you want to get to or a comment,
So I'm an author.
Yeah.
I have played some, mostly 5th edition, but some TTRPGs.
Yep.
When you're world building for a TTRPG, how far do you go? Because in writing, I only do as much as I need to for the story. I do a little more just so I can have some references to throw in to make the world feel bigger.
Yeah.
But I mostly only do, he's going from this city to that city to that city. I need everything on here, here, and here. I don't need anything else.
So I think I call that like a myopic world building, right? We're only looking through the lens of that character and then what they can experience.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Which for a novel is how it should be.
Yeah,
I
You're
agree.
only having that one perspective, but in TTRPG, and you don't want to railroad. How far do you go?
There's multiple ways to do it, and I think we've touched on essentially all of them, as you have as well. While with our world, we do have a lot of the core elements fairly well sketched out. And for me personally, the reason why that is important and works is that it has, even though it may not exist in or come to the fore in a game, there's a richness that sits around. Like it kind of
It permeates through,
it's
right?
a thicker gravy, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whereas, but at the same time, the original game that we started in a really small town, and it was like a frontier town, like out of Deadwood. And we knew what was going on in there, and we really lent into the character, the NPCs or the personalities and what was happening in that town. Notwithstanding, we did have a bit more understanding of what's going around them.
Yeah.
So I think, 2 things, like what works for you, and also where do you get the enjoyment? Like if it's functional, then that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So, any other questions? Or we can go more into this one.
So basically, my question was, I'll give you a comment into it, but basically my comment was, it seems like you like character-driven and also world-driven kind of, stories, but if you had to choose one, what's your kind of preference? Because I know,
Character-driven, 100%. Have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Up until the late seasons.
Now we're just gonna go to plot-driven, right? Out of nowhere. She wanted to burn everybody with her dragons. Didn't she free everybody? Yeah. But those are other people. Those are slaves. These people are workers and people in King's Landing. We can. That's fine. She can just kill the public here, but she doesn't kill the public anywhere else.
Historically, I've gone more world, but with the introduction of Dagger Heart and also having conversations with cool folk like yourselves, there's a significant amount of value in drawing out what matters to the characters. I think, and that's why we read books and listen to these games and play the games, is because you want to be immersed as the character. You know?
Yeah.
So maybe both. Is that
I want to
possible?
go a little bit back to this outside. As a storyteller, I put myself into the room wherever the players are, and I immerse my senses into the room. And whatever I see through the lens of the barbarian or the rogue or the whatever archetype character they are, these are the things that pop up for their character. But I also love to drop in things that my brain just sees that don't necessarily have a place yet. They are a foreshadow of something. We don't just drop in MacGuffins here and there and everywhere that are just red herrings. You can't do that in TV writing, so my brain is not scheduled for that. My brain goes, oh, I see a strange looking shell on the shelf over here, and then it has to mean something later on. It has to for me.
Or if the player says, I see the weird thing on the shelf. I'm like, okay.
So this is the improv rule on this is don't leave the pizza on the shelf. The improv rule is if you come in as a pizza delivery guy and you go, pizza, and you go, oh yeah, just put it on the shelf. All right, cool. And then this whole scene happens. Don't forget the pizza on the shelf. But then you got to come back to the pizza on the shelf, and the audience will think you're a genius if you do.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
It's true. Don't leave the pizza on the shelf.
So I guess it's like if you actually another question. I guess as players, like you might know the plot or something. Like, how do you introduce what your character wants into that kind of world to kind of build it?
The tip that I've used personally and with players is write 2 or 3 core values or their core personality traits, and then whatever has happened, because you tend to go into yourself and just be yourself around the table or amplified in certain different ways. But if you're trying to really pivot, you'll know more about this as an actor, but if you're trying to really pivot and play someone who's completely different, if you have those little word prompts, you can go like paranoid and something happens, you can go, oh yeah, this is how I'm going to react to this.
Yes, cool. I like the concept, I forget who the author was, the concept of knives. Your character hands the storyteller some knives to be stabbed with.
Yes.
Right? So you're like, oh, I have a child in another town that I don't get to see. Or I have and you're just handing the storyteller knives. And that storyteller is going to get to stab him with you later. And that's how we make good story, right? We have to have good tragedy in order to have good story.
Or to GM, or when you're a GM and like a player makes a connection, you didn't think about how we need to decide how much you know is personal or something. Like I'll roll for it. Like it doesn't really matter what it is. You just roll for it, and then that kind of sets the tone.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's the rule of role playing games. Don't have your players roll unless you want them to fail.
yes.
Yeah.
Just don't roll.
And that's a core concept in Daggerheart, is that you don't roll unless there is a significant consequence to either the action or the narrative. If it isn't, then you just let it happen.
Yeah. Anything else? We've talked. Wrap it up, or like get out of here. Do we have people waiting? Nobody waiting? Oh, so we can stick in here for a little bit. You gotta go.
Oh, well, I don't have to, but I want
Fine, leave us. Leave us. Thanks, everybody. We'll be around if you have any other questions or you just want to chat about stuff. So it's been wonderful to talk. And
if you haven't already, come grab a sticker and the chocolate and scan the
code.
Scan the code.
Yeah.